Those of us who have been abused by narcissists or still being abused by narcissists may not understand that we are enablers, that we have enabled the narcissist, and without us, the narcissist could not do what he or she does, could not abuse us. And that's kind of shocking because we think of the narcissist as being the all-controlling, this manipulating, maneuvering person who is just so dominant that all we can do is escape. But we got to keep in mind that when we are in a relationship with a narcissist, more often than not, it seems that it is codependency. They are dependent on us, and we are dependent on them. And if we can break that dependency, that is to say, if we can break our dependency on the narcissist, or as we're going to talk about today, the narcissist dependency on us, then we can break the relationship, which is the objective. That's what we want to try to do, is to get out from under the control, the harm, the abuse of the narcissist. All right, so how is the narcissist controlling us? How are they dependent upon us? And that dependency is our enabling the narcissist to control us. How does that happen? Well, we got four things that we need to talk about. And the first thing is sometimes the narcissist, and this may be a little bit more rare in I should say not in every occasion, but that is sometimes the narcissist views himself as a rescuer, herself as a rescuer. Therefore, they see themselves as kind of dependent on rescuing people. Now, you may be thinking, and this is what I would think, is, yeah, I don't need to be rescued. I don't want to be rescued. I don't have any problems. Why is the narcissist even bothering me? Well, that's not the way the narcissist sees it, because the narcissist, he or she is a narcissist. They are the best at everything. They're supremely arrogant. And they see you as somehow a flawed creature that, well, you just need their help because, well, they're better at whatever you're doing than you are, so they're going to come alongside and help you out. That can be really annoying at the very best. It can be very harmful at the very worst, or just normal. I don't want to be rescued. I don't want this person coming along helping me out. And usually they have no idea what they're doing. Often they may know a little bit more than we do about whatever, but they got a better idea about how life works according to them, but not in reality. So let's say, for example, you're having, let's say that you're married, right? You may not even be having any marital problems whatsoever, but from the narcissist perspective, yeah, they can see some trouble in your marriage, so they want to come along and help you out, straighten you out, let you see how it all works. I recall one time I was talking with a couple of divorced people. They were good people, but they started giving me advice on what they saw wrong with my family. Now, these are two people who lost their families. I mean, I knew them. They weren't horribly bad people, but they couldn't control their own families. I knew another narcissist that he was telling me, not the person, but he was telling me about a person that he worked with who was horrible at finances. Now, this other guy had his own home. He seemed to me to have his finances together. I don't know the details, nor did I know how the narcissist knew his details, but I did know this about the narcissist. I was close enough to him to know that he didn't have two nickels to rub together. He had no idea. He didn't know anything about finances whatsoever. Couldn't pay his bills. You know, he's one of those guys, just kind of, I don't want to call him a layabout. He's a busy guy, busy screwing people. But he was kind of a grifter. He didn't have a bank account. He didn't have anything. But still, he saw himself as a rescuer, as somebody who needed to help out this guy with his finances, who was living a perfectly decent, normal life. So they see themselves as rescuers. That's just part of being a narcissist, thinking you're superior, that you can see the flaws in everyone else, which are usually more imaginary than real. So one of the ways that we allow a narcissist to, one of the ways we enable, I should say, a narcissist to abuse us is to allow them to come in and play the role of the rescuer in our life. So you see this person comes into your life and they want to tell you how it's done. Advisors are good to have, but these people are all obsessive. I mean, they know everything about you, or I should say everything they know about you. They understand that, well, it's something that needs to be fixed, so they want to help you out. And you notice they're doing this with other people too. Chances are that's a narcissist, and the best thing to do is get away from them. No thanks, we don't need your advice. Just get out of here. Number two is they are boundary dependent. So what does that mean? They have boundaries. Well, we're supposed to have boundaries, right? We keep people out. It's a fortress to protect ourselves. Our boundaries are a fortress to protect ourselves, not a prison to keep us from others, but just for defensive reasons. But that's not the way that a narcissist sees boundaries. He has a whole different, or she has an entirely different perception of a boundary. To her, a boundary is a place where, well, it is a prison, but not for him or her, but for you. So he or she wants to build boundaries, not around himself, not around herself, but boundaries around you because you are kept. I like to use the analogy of a chicken coop. You've heard me say that before, that the narcissist loves to keep his chickens, and you are one of his chickens. You are his supply. You supply him with eggs, the eggs being you're boosting his ego. And if you don't supply his eggs, well, then he just, the final discard, he has you for dinner. So the narcissist is dependent on those boundaries, but not the type of boundaries that we think of being good and healthy boundaries. These are boundaries not that you have established for yourself. These are not boundaries that the narcissist has built around himself, but these are boundaries that the narcissist has built around you. Again, you're a chicken coop. It's kind of like a corral where you herd the cattle or the horses or whatever. You keep them inside the fence. Those are the boundaries, and the narcissist is dependent on those. Without the chicken coop, without the boundaries, without the corral, he has no supply, none whatsoever. So he's got to have those boundaries that he keeps people in. I once heard a narcissist, actually I didn't hear him, he posted this on his blog, but he made a reference to what he called, I think it was a jewel box. And then he named some of the names of the people who were in his jewel box. He was storing people. I mean, he was a people collector. That was his idea of boundaries. He didn't even know it, but he was revealing himself to be a narcissist. Well, the way to deal with this, it's kind of obvious. Just, I'm not a chicken. I'm not going to live in your chicken coop. I'm not a cow. I'm not a horse. I'm not going to live in your corral. I'm out of here. I'm not going to graze in your pasture, and you can milk me whenever you want. You can't take my eggs. You're not going to ride me. I'm not your pet. Leave me alone. Let's end this relationship, or let's get as far away as we possibly can when we can. So number 3 takes us to this. They are acceptance dependent. So now we have 3 ways that a narcissist is dependent upon use. Now we're starting to see, yeah, okay. So there is codependency. Number 1, they are rescuer dependent, some of them. Number 2, they are boundary dependent, as far as I'm concerned, all of them. And number 3, they are acceptance dependent. And what we mean by that is the narcissist has this great need, as you know, for supply, and that is to boost his ego. It's almost like he's addicted to it. I like to call it a dependency. But they need to be approved. They crave approving and acceptance, because without that, they have no validation. They have no sense of worth. That's why they do what they do, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I can tell, I'm pushing 70 years old. I've experienced so many things in life, and I've experienced probably more than I care to experience with narcissists. And one thing I've learned about these people is they are hypersensitive to criticism, because that is a tender spot, because they have very low self-esteem. They put on a mask, they put on a face as being superior, but that is to cover up. And it seems like the more they pretend to be superior, the more they pretend, the more that they present as arrogant, the more depressed they really are, in the sense that they have very low self-worth. Their sense of self-worth is very depressed. So they need to compensate for that somehow. So they need acceptance. They need your acceptance. That is why they get very upset when anybody criticizes them in the least. In the slightest little bit. They just get all bent out of shape. You've probably seen that in the narcissists that abused you. And one of the reasons they abuse you is to reaffirm their control. That's their way of being accepted. Strange as it may seem, that's one of the reasons I try to get away from these people, because they just don't think linearly. It's like they're scatterbrains. Nothing seems to tie together. As I said earlier, you could have somebody who doesn't have a family life, never had a successful family life, but they can give you really good advice on your family. You could have somebody, as we said earlier, who have that has no financial sense whatsoever, but they can give everybody else advice on how they should manage their finances. Scatterbrains, and they don't realize it. They actually believe they are experts. They don't see their own flaws, and how dare you point them out. Number 4 is this. For the lack of a better term, I was trying to think of a better term. Maybe you can think of one. But I called this baiter dependent. That is to say, they constantly have to have new supply because they go through this cycle. They wear people out. They abuse them to the point where most people will finally wise up to what's going on and they get away from the narcissist. So they have to constantly be bringing in new supply. And they do that by baiting. You know how baiting goes. They have the love bombing episode where they try to lure people into their web of deceit, and sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not, but they are very good at identifying people who are available to be codependent. That's one of the reasons, by the way, they targeted you. One of the reasons narcissists targeted me, because they saw that, we too were kind of rescuers, you know. We needed friendship. We were open to friendship, and they saw that openness as an opportunity to bait us, to draw us in, and to hook us. But they're dependent on that. If they can't bait people, if they can't put the hook in the water, they don't eat. You know, they don't get the supply. So they're dependent on that. And you can notice, one thing I noticed with narcissists is they're always looking for new victims, constantly. It's just a lifelong endeavor. And they have a slew of them in their corral already, and they're always looking for more because, you know, there's some of them are getting away, and, what are they going to do? They got to have that supply. So they're constantly baiting other people. I'm not sure there's much you can do about that. In fact, I can't think of anything that I can do about that other than not allow them to bait me. So anytime somebody comes along, and potentially a narcissist, and no, I don't suspect everyone of being a narcissist, but if the love bombing is just over the top, if they are too helpful, too friendly, just trying to rescue me from whatever, I kind of back away a little bit, and let's give this guy some time, 20 years or whatever it takes. See the 2 rectangles on the screen? Let's keep talking if you want a conversation to continue. If not, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see y'all next time.